Angel skull, witch skull, doe eyes, prey eyes. You people are under spells. While trends can be cute and fun, and asking your friend if you give fairy or nymph energy doesn't make you a beacon of the alt right, can we all agree that there may be a little bit more to the current obsession with physical categorization than meets the eye? Skulls and other physical features pertaining to one's virtue have a long and complicated history, so we shouldn't be too chill about these reintroductions. Welcome to BS, a podcast where we take an in depth look at different scientific and social phenomena and innovations, while tying them back to broader societal perspectives and why you should care. Join us in exploring how phrenology and physiognomy have snuck their way back into popular culture and figuring out what that means for us.
Can everyone see my positive cancel tilt from here?
All right, pack it up. We can't be going the Joe Rogan experience route into followers for real.
Lord. Anyways, listen, guys. Every time I come across a Looksmaxers videos, I'm of course disgusted because ew, but then also just so fascinated, so intrigued. I feel like an anthropologist.
It really started as an incel thing, which I don't think many people know, but
oh, definitely
it's
not.
so hard to watch something that came from an extremist group just kind of slide its way into
literally.
popular culture.
Sometimes I see people casually using incel terms, and I'm like, you guys don't even know. You guys don't even know the depths of where this came crawled out of.
Bro, we have 30 minutes. It's all right.
At this point, we got 15. Anyways, so guys, you're wondering why we haven't been around for a very, very, very long time, and also why you're seeing our faces. A lot of things have changed. A lot of things have changed for the people that are looking at the video of the podcast right now. But yes, Gold and I, your professors, have graduated. Woo! Academic journey not at an end because both of us are going to doing postgraduate options in the future, but at least please don't hang your head yet. At least temporarily halted.
I'm trying to say temporary shackles are broken. The new improved ones are coming in a couple years.
It'll be all right. But yeah, we've been locked in the semester with obviously all the things that are associated with grad season. So that is why it's been a while since a podcast video came out. Also, we've made a couple of changes, as you can see, into the way we're gonna do the format of the show and stuff like that. So we're excited for the changes. We're excited to continue to make podcasts for you guys, and we hope you enjoy this episode. It's a very, very intriguing topic.
It's something.
A very relevant topic, and that is
sure.
Phrenology.
Yeah.
So here we decided that as any good classroom or class has, you have guiding research questions, that help you delve into the material, really know what you're going to be tackling, help you grasp the just what you're trying to understand, of course. And so the 4 guiding research questions for this episode is going to be A1, what is phrenology? 2, how has it been used historically as a pseudoscientific tool? 3, what are the ways in which phrenology has been making its way back into the mainstream? And 4, what are the subsequent dangers of reintroducing phrenological ideas, beliefs, and doctrines into society again? Also, if you see us looking down at our iPads, that is because we are referencing our notes, because we would never leave you astray. It's only peer reviewed over here.
Maybe. We're not making shit up. Y'all don't know how many people actually are. Shout out to Joe Rogan again, honestly.
Lord have mercy. So, everybody, what is phrenology? I love to give multiple definitions for something, because to really grasp the essence of a thing, you have to see how people describe it first, what specific words they use. And so, Oxford Languages describes phrenology as the detailed study of the shape and size of the cranium as a supposed indication of character and mental abilities. Britannica says it is the study of the conformation of the skull as indicative of mental faculties and traits of character. And obviously, by our very, very modern 21st definitions of science, already just from the definitions, there are red flags that are raised.
They was letting anything slide back then. Like, I'm not gonna lie. And honestly, if you want to look even deeper into like phrenology and what they were saying during the 19th century, it went by multiple names before they landed at phrenology: organology, craniology, cranioscopy, and then Benjamin Rush ended up coining the term phrenology. And we're probably going to focus mostly on the US because, of course, like, phrenology came in and spread like wildfire. Like, especially with a country with such a complicated and definitely diverse history, the idea that there were easy to grasp physical features that can distinguish like humans from one another, just the idea of separating us by our physicality at all is something that was very enticing for white Americans at the time.
Well, yes. And so it was invented by Franz Joseph Gall, a neuroanatomist from Vienna in the late 18th century. It went on to be popularized and really have a large impact in the first half of the 19th century in Europe and, of course, in North America, as Gold already mentioned. And the basic idea of phrenology is that you measure the bumps on the skull of a person to reveal specific characteristics about them. Initially, Gall painted or characterized 26 distinct regions, or what he would go on to call quote unquote organs, that had associated characteristics like ambition, moral sense, vanity, educational aptness, even more violent categories like murder, self defense, stuff like
Just
that.
saying stuff, friendship, like, feel her skull before you invite her to that birthday dinner for real.
No, literally, because what are you doing? You don't know nothing about that girl. Later adherents would go on to kind of get rid of the more violent categories, especially since they were getting into some trouble with the church around that time. And they would go on to also rename a lot of the descriptors. But the basic principle is that the larger or more prominent this region or organ, the more likely that person is to possess that personality trait. And so, what doctors would then go on to do is basically like perform these assessments where they would use certain tools to try to like measure the bumps on a person's head, and basically just, yeah, tell them what their overall natural strengths or weaknesses were. I know parents would get them for their children a lot. I know people who were curious about the site because obviously like people didn't just right away believe it. There were some people who I know were just curious and they went and got these assessments, but there was a period of time where this was used as like an actual clinical tool. I'm used to diagnose people with a variety of disorders. Like, the list goes on and on about the crackpot science that, like, ooh, they was just doing anything in the 18th century. Oh my god! But
Like, that's the thing, we're joking, but they really were taking this shit seriously. Like, I'm not gonna act like everybody were just blindly following the idea that like whether or not your mom picked you up as a child was gonna be whether or not you were gonna end up murdering somebody in the future. But it was definitely a serious science that was being spread particularly through medical students and medical schools. There were always opposition, like I said, like not everybody just took this and ran with it, but like phrenology was something that had a lasting impact on Europe and the United States particularly, but even other parts of the world. um and the thing is, it was kind of pushed with other things that kind of made sense. Like, the idea that broadly and again, like very grossly, there are areas in the brain that specialize is something that we still teach today, like your occipital lobe contributing more to your eyesight than other lobes of your brain. But this took it a step too far, let's just say. Like,
so now our second research question, because now you guys know what phrenology is, and I hope you are sneering at home like, wow, I can't believe anyone ever believed this. But lo and behold, it was continuously and constantly used, of course, to subject people, because what else do humans do with things? And so our second research question is, how has it been used historically as a pseudoscientific tool? Go take us away.
I mean, mainly like in order to understand how phrenology was like utilized, you need to understand that it kind of functioned under the understanding of biological determinism. Like, they took it very seriously about like how your biology is like is basically what depends your personality and your life outcomes. Like they were very into the nature of it and were kind of ignoring nurture as a whole and environmental impacts. And we ended up seeing that a lot with eugenics and forced sterilization. Phrenology started in like the early 1900s, and really got going in like 1820 in the US. And then we kind of see it, I mean 1920, I'm sorry, in the US, and we kind of see it kind of like pick up, um and turn into what we see today as eugenics. Like even in Europe, Nazi Germany, surprise surprise, like we're using phrenology and eugenics to identify people who are unworthy of life, and ended up killing them and engaging in forced sterilization because the idea that these people were kind of burdens to other people in society took over the mainstream and made things like that okay. I mean, there's even a landmark case in the US, Buck versus Bell, and that happened in 1927, and was based on the understanding of a woman who was considered to be quote unquote feeble minded, which was a word they used to describe people with intellectual disabilities in the 1920s. And it basically allowed for legal forced sterilization of her and others who were like her, based off the idea that they believed other generations of her family were intellectually disabled. She was intellectually disabled, and they were pretty sure that she was going to continue to give birth to children who were also intellectually disabled. And they basically thought like that was not okay. Like, we will not continue to carry the burden of your family who are not equal contributors to society. As you guys can see, a lot of ableism riddled through this entire thing. I mean, there's even a very infamous quote from this case where they're like, 3 generations of imbeciles is enough.
Is enough. They
Just kind of
period.
insane.
Period at the
Like,
end.
and they was
LOL.
like, that's good and real proof and evidence. Like, okay.
LOL. No, I definitely another thing I realized is like I feel like and obviously like eugenics is infamous for a variety of reasons and
Mm-hmm.
probably more popular as a concept in the United States, which is maybe why we talk about it more. But like the way eugenics is constantly mentioned, but phrenology is really her older cousin. Okay? Like there's even a quote that says phrenologists were the first social scientists to construct a view of human nature in which the inheritability of both physical and mental qualities played a major role. So like phrenology was really the first person on the scene to be like, you know what? I think these people are born with it. And it never changes. And we
Like,
saw a variety of different sciences spawn after that. But yeah, back to so obviously very, very intrinsically tied in with eugenics. But wherever eugenics lies means we're gonna have a lot of racism, ableism, sexism, xenophobia following in its tracks, because of course. And so we see phrenology go on to be used in a variety of different disciplines to basically assert that the straight white male is the best, of course, specimen, and everybody else is in some way inferior due to their skull shape.
that's something that you really have to understand about science during this time. And honestly, I personally argue science and research today is that a lot of people already have preconceived notions, and they are now backpedaling from whatever like theory or hypothesis they have and filling in the gaps however they see fit. So, of course, when phrenologists were coming up with all of these ideas and understanding, they were landing at the idea that being a straight white man was like the smartest, most intelligent, just high above the ladder. And we see this a lot with phrenology in the 1800s, because you see a lot of race science going on, and they used it as one of the main like defense of chattel slavery. The idea that black people were just meant for field labor. They just didn't harness a certain type of intelligence, that their skulls were like smaller than white free people, because and that's why they had to continue to be enslaved generation by generation. And again, it became such a large talking point for people who were not abolitionists, that Frederick Douglass, obviously very big black activist, spoke on it in The Claims of the Negro Ethnologically Considered, where he says if a phrenologist undertakes to represent in portraits the difference between two races, the Negro and the European, he will invariably present the highest type of the Europeans and the lowest type of the Negro. Now, Frederick Douglass himself wasn't necessarily 110% anti phrenology. I'm pretty sure he literally went to get his skull read himself. But like his whole thing was like the science is whatever you guys need it to be at the moment. Like even when they was touching up on his skull and they thought he was smarter than the average enslaved black person in the US, their excuse for that was, oh well, he's half white. Like they always had something in the back of like their truck as to why white people were just the best and men were just the best, and things are just how they need to be because quote unquote science, and they were trying to appeal with logos without actually having any logic to it.
I mean, yeah, they did the same thing. Once again, did the same thing with women, argued that women's and men's skulls were, of course, vastly different and therefore led to differences in mental capacities. So women's brains were smaller, weaker, had less power, had less mental force. Once again, you cannot have conversations like these without talking about ableism because once again, disabled people are in a very easy group to target, especially when they have those mental or physical deficiencies that prohibit them from being able to stand up for themselves in a lot of ways. And so, of course, when we're going to start measuring skulls and talking about mental capacities, disabled people are coming under fire. Like,
and the thing is, like, capitalism and race really set the framework from for the modern day ableism we see in the United States today, because the idea that somebody's worth is tied to their output and the way and how we can contribute quote unquote to society is the reason why we even get justifications for chattel slavery. It's the reason why we even get cases like Buck v. Bell with Carrie Buck, and it's just propositioning our worth by our output and measuring our output by however they feel that day, to be honest. Like,
no, it's a continuously ever changing standard. And of course, in the 1800s, when neuroscience was still obviously, y'all didn't see that. Y'all didn't see that. Sorry, but the people listening on audio, why did a poster just fall on me? It's okay though. Um, but what do you call it? Where even was I? Oh, I was saying that even with neuroscience kind of being an emerging field around the time, that meant that people could kind of take things and run with it because nobody actually knew. There were so many new theories coming on around that time. And like Gold already stated, like these discoveries did actually lead to some neuroscience developments. Like people talk a lot about like Broca's area, which is like a language processing area in your brain, and like just different things that wouldn't necessarily have been discovered if there hadn't been the initial claims that what do you call it, like the shape of regions in your brain influenced like your characteristics. But once again, like phrenology is like surface level bumps on your skull, very like backward science that was untested, unproven assertions versus like the more complex biochemical reactions that occur in your brain that lead to these developments. So yeah.
yeah, one thing you'll learn about neuroscience is like nothing is cut and dry, nothing is that black and white, everything is nuanced, nothing is that easy. You can say that about anything in life, but obviously, like, that just didn't fit their framework of the world and the way that they wanted to run their country. So that was just not what was going to fly. And it really sucks that this did happen at the time it did, because the 19th century was such a time for fighting against ableism and like the idea that disabled people can be treated any kind of way, especially and particularly because there was a lot of arguments towards asylum reform, and there was a whole movement on that to try to better the conditions for disabled people, especially people who are considered severely disabled. So when you come in with this idea that like these people cannot be helped, do not contribute, and then it leads to eugenics, if they're gonna not contribute equally, if they're going to quote unquote be bad people, then they don't deserve to live. It's just, again, disheartening to see people just kind of follow the science and be completely led astray because they were on madeupmonkeyshit.com this entire time.
No, for sure. So our third question is, what are the ways in which phrenology and physiognomy have been making its way back into the mainstream? Oh well, let's reverse for a second so that we can give a working definition of what physiognomy is. I keep saying it wrong too. It's physiognomy, y'all. But it is very intrinsically tied to phrenology, but they're not exactly the same thing. So
Yeah, physiognomy is more so just like the overall idea that anything about your looks and physical characteristics, particularly usually your face, can tell you things about your personality. This developed honestly before phrenology. Like, we've been seeing physiognomy in different cultures for ages and ages. You might even see some physiognomy in astrological predictions too. I see it a lot in astrology in this day and age. But yeah, it's kind of working under similar but slightly different understandings of like something about your physical characteristic contributing to your personality.
now, with all that said and done, clearly, if anything is ringing a bell, that's because people are definitely practicing it. It's like, I mean, that I can only be real. Like, we've discussed all of these very, very terrible things that phrenology and physiognomy have been used for. And so then it becomes quite surprising when you see people bringing it back. But it's not really surprising when you kind of look at the undercurrents of conservatism that have been kind of like just sweeping through our society and steadily building over the past couple of years. And then also looking at how beauty in general has become a lot more accessible to the general populace. Of course, accessibility is the antithesis of luxury, and the rich are always seeking luxurious experiences. If the cosmetic surgery that they were getting is now accessible to everyone, they are no longer special. There's no longer no denotation between them and the people that they are so trying so hard to separate themselves from, which is why we're kind of seeing this trend of returning back to natural beauty. Like, fillers are too inexpensive, makeup is too inexpensive, going to the gym, like all these different things. Like, now all of a sudden we're seeing this like flow back to
No, I
looking
definitely
natural.
agree. Like, I think beauty becoming too accessible was really the straw that broke the camel's back. And it's so interesting because, again, even the people that we look towards and the celebrities or influencers or what have you in terms of like natural beauty are definitely getting procedures done. But again, like, these procedures are inaccessible. They're getting certain skincare procedures or certain cosmetic procedures that are less known, harder to get, more money than other quick fixes like maybe makeup or fillers or Botox. So the like, just to have that almost like magician sleight of hand and make them look so natural, even though it took a lot of hours and a lot of work, is again kind of putting their feet back on the top of the beauty totem pole and letting them know that there are frontiers unexplored by bitches who are not in our tax bracket. Like,
No, the facelift is a really good example of this. Like,
yes.
definitely, like, and these are all people that are speculative, so please don't let their PR team come after me. But
I would
people,
just put allegedly after every name. Like,
literally, allegedly. But I mean, a lot of people were going crazy over Lindsay Lohan's transformation, and a lot of people speculated that she had gotten a, is it called a baby facelift? I don't know.
girl.
It's like facelift, but they put some sort of like baby or mini, like it's not like a full facelift, but it's like a less invasive, smaller version of one. But
Yeah.
a lot of people were speculating that she had gotten that. And I even read a couple of articles about how people are kind of moving away from filler. I mean, one, because it migrates and it's not as dissolvable as people initially, when it was like a huge trend, were going on, which, I mean, anybody could have told y'all that, but anyways. So it's like it's too little too late. I'm not gonna say I told you so, but people are definitely kind of seeing the cons of, I would say, like more accessible like beauty treatments. And so we're almost seeing like the rise in beauty treatments that are even more like you said, skillful, require a lot more labor, require more advanced surgical techniques, but then that means the price tag
Oh, for
increases.
sure. Because like that's the difference between like Botox and filler and facelifts. Like one, since Botox and filler are not considered surgery, more people can do it, which means the price tag can lower. Facelifts are, which means that as long as y'all keeping it cute, it should be done by a surgeon because it is surgery. And obviously, like more hours, more expertise needed, less people who could perform it, a lot more money. Um, so, and honestly, it does look better. It's more invasive for a reason,
Mhm.
and you can kind of like see that like there's now this emphasis on what you actually look like and da 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 and wanting natural beauty now that like being pretty and being conventionally attractive has become too accessible. I mean, y'all have heard the millennials complain over and over again about how like they just didn't have the YouTube and the TikTok and the Instagram of it all to let them know how to put on makeup and not look literally fucking crazy, and how like Gen Z, particularly Gen Alpha, I don't even want to know what's going to happen when Gen Beta did have those things, and we didn't go through as long of an ugly duckling phase if we even had to go through one at all.
Yeah, but all of this ties back because you realize, okay, beauty is more accessible. Shouldn't that be a good thing that people are more able to look like their favorite influencers or look like their favorite celebrities? Because something nefarious is always at play. And so, with the rise of this, once again, trend of conservatism and trend of like re-emphasizing what is natural, what is kin to you, what are your characteristics and features that you were born with that you cannot, like, it's not easy for you to modify or imitate somebody else's. People are now having and reinforcing trends that are solely based off of the characteristics that people are born with. Anything associated with looks maxing, which is an incel term in itself, which is why I'm so vehemently against the way that it is entered the public like lexicon and pop culture. Like, it really hurts. It really hurts because it's just like,
Really
guys,
does,
it came from the
though.
basement, guys. Please, please.
And what is so both hilarious and insidious about looks maxing is that men don't want to admit that they want to be desired. Like, and it's ruining our lives. Like, so
Hey.
like the majority of looks maxing is basically saying that this is conventional attractiveness and how can you achieve that if these are new terms to you and you're scared. And essentially they try to explain why people find certain things attractive. Again, like doe eyes versus prey eyes, having eyes that are more upturned, that are smaller, that are closer together, are just eyes that are more associated with like being a hunter. Sorry, I said doe and prey. It's prey and hunter. And having eyes that are like far apart and large are giving very deer like more associated with being prey. And it's just like, guys, you just made that up. Like,
You
that is
are
not.
under spells, people.
And sometimes I'm not sure if I can save y'all.
Spells.
And I just think that there is this like guttural need for men to try to explain away the reasons why they feel certain ways, or just greater society as a whole, which is why I think that we easily adopted looks maxing, wants to explain away why we feel these ways. And we don't want to talk about colonialization. We don't want to talk about things like that because then it makes it seem like we could have had a future and a life and an everything everywhere all at once situation in which we didn't have to subscribe to these incredibly strict beauty standards. But if we just say it's all nature, again, like ignoring nurture, ignoring environmental impacts, completely ignoring history, by the way, and just go with this ahistorical and honestly anti-science route of thinking about things, that like then it's okay because like this is just how things always are, and it's unfortunate, but this is how things always have to be. Like, it's not calling you to look upon yourself, it's not calling you to make any action in your own community, nor ignore in like the greater like society, because kind of like this is just how things are supposed to be.
Oh, for sure. And I think, like you said, to take it a step further, like, think about what even the point of these trends are. Like, okay, angel skull versus witch skull, and then like positive and negative cancel tilt, prey eyes, hunter eyes, and puku eyes, like every type of
Child.
eyes that y'all got. Like, not only is it trying to once again normalize the idea that these are like desirable traits with no real scientific or biological backing. Like, y'all love to throw it's science, it's biology, it's nature behind everything with no actual peer reviewed
Like you just
studies
want
to
to be
prove it.
pretty.
Like, just say that. That's okay. But on a secondary note, like, what good does it do to continue to reinforce and emphasize these differences? They want to capitalize off of people's insecurities. They want to capitalize once again off of the continuously shifting beauty standard to make people want to invest and prioritize these things that really, really don't matter. I think it's also very key to note that, like, in a lot of ways, this targets women a lot. We've had an episode about this, about how the beauty standard is just much higher for women, which is why, like, I feel like I see a lot of the more like accepted trend, like angel skull versus like, or it's just more like cutesy-fied. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like there's a certain stench associated with looks maxing. Now, are they all doing the same thing, both on the men's and women's side? Yes, but I definitely think there's like a little bit of a stigma with looks maxing, especially because of
Oh,
its
for
origins.
sure.
But like, it's so like normalized, this idea that we're like putting trending videos with millions of likes about these like biological characteristics that people cannot change, and there's clearly a preference for one over the other. And so it's not a cute harmless trend trying to figure out if you have an angel skull or a witch skull or all of these different things. And we all know about the halo effect and the idea that people who are conventionally attractive are seen as smarter, kinder, more compassionate, more deserving of sympathy and of life in general. And that is what, once again, y'all are reinforcing, like trying to make these certain characteristics be desirable and above others, make people pine after them, reestablish a social hierarchy that for the past couple of years we were really trying hard to break, y'all. And it's just really sad to see it come back, where I'm just like, you guys are just reintroducing phrenology into the mainstream, just in a new way, just on your For You page now, just with your favorite influencer now, instead of maybe whatever 18th century Victoria like model they were using before. And yeah.
Like I'm over here having to listen to physiognomy because y'all don't like discomfort. And I think that is like the crux of a lot of the things y'all do. Like there was this one research study that like honestly partially haunts me, partially like honestly made me understand why things are the way they are. And it essentially it showed people of differing political differences like gory images, and
Oh,
it
I remember
saw
this.
that
Yes.
conservatives tend to have a more visceral reaction neurologically to gory images. And obviously what a lot of people are taking from that is that conservatives, the looks of things tend to just impact them more, which is honestly probably why we get the insults like blue haired liberal and this and that and the septum piercing of it all. Like they're just very, very impacted by the way things look. And I feel like there is discomfort associated with disabled people, with black people, with people who they already view as lower than them, and partially because of the way they look, honestly a large part because of the way they look. And instead of actually seeing the logic in those situations, seeing the issues in those situations and working to fix that, it really is just easier to say that this is a natural thing to want to do. And even then I don't even care for that, because people may argue it is a natural thing to like look at something and like that's how we evolved and da 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 da. And I'm like, well, baby, snakes are no longer chasing us. I no longer need to identify a predator by the blink of an eye or the snap of a finger and be more inclined to like things that look like me. We're seeing this as harming people. We're seeing this as just overall bad for society. And y'all keep on one appealing to nature even though half of the things y'all say about nature is incorrect, or creating your own science and your own logic about something while you'll be dead fucking wrong.
Yeah, no, I just feel like in general, child, so many things to say about phrenology and physiognomy. And I think, once again, what is truly worrying is that it's all coming at a time where we're seeing the beauty standards rise, not just for women. Like, once again, beauty standards is higher for women, but we are actually seeing increasing pressure, especially on young men specifically, about looks. And to watch these trends coincide with the rise in people's anxieties and fears about the ways they present themselves in this world, and also a continuous rise of conservatism that is impacting life in all areas for people. It's hard not to feel a lot of fear for marginalized people. I mean, already going through a lot on all accounts for all marginalized people,
Like,
but this is just another aspect of dehumanization, because that's what this really at the end of the day is about. Dehumanization. You are not human the way that I am human, and therefore I call the shots, and I can decide how I want to treat you and what aspects of human life I'm going to give you the privilege to have access to and which I am not. And this is always inevitably going to impact disabled people, black people, women, queer people, anybody that is considered to be different than, once again, a heteronormative, straight white man, cis man. And so when we try to normalize and bring these things back as cute, or as trying to maximize our potential for finding a mate, or all of these excuses for why y'all are doing these things, at the end of the day, what we really end up doing is saying, this is what is desirable. This is what it means to be a quality human being. Like, this is what you should be striving for and chasing after. And anything else deviant from that is wrong. When we continue to, like, reprioritize and say that, like, this is the quality, this is the standard, there has to be somebody that doesn't meet that standard. If there is pretty, there has to be ugly. There has to be. So yeah, I mean, fourth research question was just, what are the subsequent dangers of reintroducing phrenological ideas, beliefs, and doctrines? I feel like we've covered a
I
lot of
feel like
that.
we've gotten to that. Like,
Um,
at this point, the next time you hear somebody use the term negative cancel tilt, block them. Like,
block them
it's really
immediately.
gotten to a point. Like, and report them too. Actually, like,
Yeah, I think the main thing that I wanted to say ending this episode, because it's quite serious for me actually, which is that phrenology is a pseudoscience. Like, that is another thing that, I mean, obviously we touched on how it doesn't really have any, like, biological basis to it, but, like, I feel like it's very, very important to emphasize that it's not backed up by empirical data, it's not robustly tested scientific evidence, and it's incredibly susceptible to bias, as we've obviously talked about. Its theories are largely unproven. For all of the advocates of phrenology that existed in the 18th and 19th century, nobody has actually been able to come out and reproduce the studies that actually don't exist. Why would I say reproduce studies? There are no like, there are no studies. There were no studies that
like,
were
baby, there's
done.
no plane.
Like, obviously we know that the brain influences human behavior and characteristics, but not in the ways that phrenologists allege. And once again, whether these movements set out to do this or not, they have historically been used as a tool for marginalization, criminalization, and sterilization, literally, of the quote unquote undesirables of society. So when we even try to give credibility or basis to something that is so, just so false at the end of the day, like, I mean, there's no other way to describe it. All we are doing is just feeding into the undercurrents of bigotry that are in our society. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
And honestly, the last thing I'd like to leave y'all with, like, as much as we are science girlies, like, trust and believe. Like, I love science, I love neuro, I love research, and that's why we're even sitting on this couch today, and that's why we even went through the hell we did in those 4 years. Y'all need to take scientific research, scientific conclusions, understandings from professionals and those who are even degreed and certified with a grain of salt, and view them under a critical lens. Because as we have seen with phrenology, before phrenology, and I will assure you after phrenology, like, and honestly, I'm even seeing it in modern day with the research we see on sex and gender and other topics. A lot of this research is incredibly biased, is not producing the facts they are claiming to get from it, and is trying to prove something that society had already believed it had already been grandfathered into our society. I even had an entire course where our whole point of the course was critiquing research articles, and that was a mandatory course for us to even graduate with a neuroscience and behavioral biology degree, because to fully understand science, you have to not look at it as this is the one and the only and the truth and this, and it's just black and white like that. Like, in order to know something, I do think you need to have the ability to critically analyze it and critique it. And I just want to leave y'all with what we kind of leave y'all with every episode, like, be a thought daughter, be a thought son, just be a thought person. Happy Pride, but think, please.
No, for sure. And listen to the people who are actively telling y'all to be scared and to be worried. Because at the end of the day, like, the experiences of the marginalized people are going to be the logos in the situation and the ethos and pathos of the situation, because they know better than anyone what the red flags look like, because they're the first groups to have to go through something when shit hits the fan. But the conclusion of this episode, we have a new segment that we are now establishing, and it's really because we've graduated, and so we are just going to reflect on different things that have happened while we were trying to get our bachelor's. So we're calling this Bits of BS, and this is just bits of trifling stuff that we went through in order to get this, because it was hard fought, okay? Hard fought, hard earned.
Bro, everybody put me through it.
Put me through it. Let me not say too much.
At what cost? But
no, literally. So, all right, who wants to go first?
I will, honestly, because honestly, my bit of BS is recent and it's actually pissing me off. Like, I don't know what was in the air for Atlanta universities this graduation season, but stop acting like rain in May is a surprise, or severe weather, or this or that or the third. Like, y'all already seen what happened in Morehouse. Like, we're a smaller school, so maybe y'all ain't here, but I'm just like, Emory has this tradition of like having graduation on the quad, especially like for undergrad, every single year, as well as commencement. We have our commencement and graduation on the same day. Obviously, like, it can rain sometimes, so like, what do they do when they want to have graduation outside in spring in Georgia? like that's the part that be killing me. And it said that it was gonna rain for, like, I kid y'all not, 10 days straight. It was saying it was going to rain on my commencement / graduation day. However, they ignored all of those weather forecasts, waited till literally the day before, less than 24 hours before we were supposed to graduate. They changed the location from the quad to the gym, which doesn't have nearly enough space. So they actually had to split the graduation into two places, the Bachelor's of Science and the Bachelor's of Arts. So my friends who I swore I was going to see them walk less than 24 hours before, I found out that that was not happening. Also, we did not have enough space for all of the classes to come in and have commencement. So I didn't get to see Usher. And yes, I am upset. And yes, I will be petty about it. And how dare they FaceTime him during my graduation and have him say something over the phone? Yes!
Oh, I thought it was a phone call.
Like,
okay, a FaceTime is better than a phone call.
Okay, I'd rather have him actually not say anything at all, because why is our president flipping the phone trying to show me Usher, girl? If I want to see Usher on the phone, I could have watched YouTube.
Nothing is better, but a FaceTime is better than a phone call.
No, what would have been better is if he just kept himself wherever he was at. Like, no shade to Usher, but I was already pissed. And not to mention, like, our tickets went from 10 to 3. So in a private school where 75% of people are either out of state or international, they decided to cut tickets less than 24 hours before. And now we have people whose family members have literally booked an international round trip, booked an Airbnb, and taken PTO off work. We're talking about thousands of dollars lost. And they're telling them, actually, no, you can't come. And then we usually have viewing rooms on campus, which are inside, so I don't even know why they canceled those. And they said, actually, Actually, we're not doing that either. Actually, fuck y'all. Like, I didn't really understand. Then also, they wanted to do every single graduation in the exact same area. So they were giving us like an hour each. We walked in 30 minutes late to our own graduation. They rushed the entire ceremony. Like, y'all, we did not even turn our tassels. They said, get out, like actually right now. Get out right now and fuck you. And that's literally the entire undergrad Emory graduation experience. And I'm just like, wow, I was worried about like crying on graduation, it being an emotional experience. Whole time my school had another thing coming for me. It's all right. It's all right though.
They say we finna go out with a bang. You got one last project to get through, one last hardship to endure.
I was about to say, leave it to Emory to piss me off one last time, okay?
Well, my story isn't as trifling as this one. My story actually has nothing to do with me and everything to do with just the very interesting characters I have encountered in my time at Georgia Tech. But sorry, like I was okay to speculate. This is all. Well, this is not speculation. This actually happened. There was like
allegedly,
not allegedly. There was photo proof.
Maybe that was his twin, girl. You never know,
right? But basically, why did one of the professors at Georgia Tech eat a tampon? And during class, like during lecture, like literally, like I have the photo that was sent to me by other people that like made the rounds, was in the group meetings, all of that, of him literally like, I don't know if he even dipped it in water first. He might have dipped it. I don't know what he did to the tampon before he ate it. But all I just see
I don't know what he did to the tampon before he ate it.
I just don't know. But all I just see is a middle-aged man just whole swallowing a tampon, just dangling by the string into his mouth during the middle of like a CS 1301 lecture. Like, when did shot ever end for real? Like, I was like, wow. Yeah, I wasn't in the class. This was set to. We're back after technical difficulties. But yeah, I don't know why that man did that in a lecture hall full of hundreds of students. I have more professor stories for another time. But shout out to him. Shout out to. I don't condone phrenology, but maybe there is an organ for freak bull somewhere on him.
And it's large as hell for real. Like.
But we're gonna end the episode now. So as always, guys, remember to remain curious, remain educated, and remain critical always. Thank you for watching, and we'll see y'all in the next episode. Bye. Bye.